Would you rather lose your sight or lose your memories? Welcome to Second Saturday, the podcast where every Sunday feels like a Saturday.
This is episode 85, and I'm Ainsley.
This is Jen.
And today we're going to attempt our Lodge Life deep dive once again. Hopefully, stay on track, stay focused, and actually
Listen, I got
get
a
through
lot
everything.
going on, so I could easily deviate, but I'm going to stick to the plan. I'm sticking with the plan
Yes.
today.
We can briefly discuss how your little tournament went. Who was the winner? Who was, because the whole last week's episode was all about
Yeah.
golf and how you guys were
Yes.
kind of,
Mhm.
you and a couple of your friends like draw names and kind of have like a little bet going about the golf tournament. So who
I love
came
that.
out on top?
I'm actually kind of in Master's Green almost. Like this is one of my golf
Mm-hmm.
outfits, kind of in Master's Green. Okay, so let's recap. So when I left you guys, I went back to watch Sunday's final round of the Masters. I was kind of really rooting for Justin Rose to win the whole thing. Like I would have loved to have seen Rory win it, but I was kind of really rooting for Justin Rose. Thought he might have gonna pull it off, but he didn't. Rory did pull it off. I'm very happy for him too. He was
Yeah.
not one of the people on my roster, but I kicked everyone's ass.
Oh yeah.
That's all that
Oh yeah.
matters.
All
I
that
think I
matters.
ended up with a +2 at the end of the day. I happen to still have my master's schedule, my things up here. Okay, so we each picked. Let me see, 1, 2, 3,
There was four of
5.
them, by the way. There was
Yeah,
four people in
1,
the
2,
draw.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We picked about 21 people for our roster at the very beginning of the tournament. So we did a little draft and we picked the order that we were going to pick in. My husband wasn't able to be at the draft, so he's like, just give me the next highest ranked person on the list of players. He's like, and I'll take those people. So he was left with some very obscure people. Well, listen, by the end of the day, too, that little stinker was winning, and I'm like, anybody, like, just, anyway. So if the problem is with that, or well, part of the you play the gamble is that if your players don't make the cut, their score still counts, but your other players can still get a lesser score, right? So
Yeah.
I only had 4 players out of my like 20 that didn't make the cut. Oh, I was in it to win it. I ended up
Oh
winning
yeah.
my final score. So it is a total accumulation of all of your players' scores. So even from like I had Scotty Scheffler who came in second with minus 11. Yes. And then my highest score was just a lower ranked player. He had plus 15. So all of those scores count, right? So you've got all your
Oh yeah.
minuses and your evens and your pluses. You add
Pluses,
them
yeah.
all up, and whatever your overall score is your winner. I ended up with +2, which is really, really good.
That is really
I
good.
was it was really good. My guys, they showed up. The next person, which was my girlfriend, she was at +34 strokes. So I won by over 30 strokes.
Jeez, how did you manage like a 30-point gap? That's
I know.
crazy.
I know. It was crazy. So, anyways, I've never won this. We've done this, I think, maybe 4 times, and I've never won it. I won it this time. I won this time. I won this time. I won the big prize money. So we each put $50 in. So listen, this cat. It was a great day.
Look at
All my
that.
husband and I did was just sit at home. We sat and watched the Masters. It was awesome. It was
Yeah,
fantastic.
a good
So yeah,
weekend.
it was really good.
A good
Really, really
weekend.
good.
I feel like I'm also a winner because I
Okay.
just recently found out that I got a full-time job. So,
Yay!
yay me. Not in my field,
Cue the
but
music.
I'm not upset that it's not in my field because obviously we do the podcast and I do many other things that like fulfill that part of my life. I
Yeah.
just want the money, so I'll take
Yeah.
it.
Nice. Yay. Congratulations, Ainsley.
So,
I'm so happy for you. I'm kind of happy.
I'm
I'm
actually
kind of sad
starting
because,
tomorrow.
oh,
Crazy.
boom, there you go.
Anyways,
I'm kind
yeah.
of sad because it's going to create my style because I can't just like reach out to you like in the middle of the random day.
Yeah.
Um,
So sorry.
so it's going to create my style and being able to talk to you. But listen, you're going to be making like just regular income on a
I'll be
weekly basis.
making adult money,
Adult money.
and that's all I need.
Holy moly. Was this on your vision board or your bingo card to get a full time job?
It was. So last year on my bingo card, I put a full-time job, but I'd put headphones on it, so it was more classified to like a film job. But
Okay.
I totally forgot. Oh my goodness, I can cross it off my bingo card. This year I just
I
put any
remember.
full-time job.
What? You can cross it
Yay!
off.
Yay. Okay.
Aren't you
Well,
glad I remembered?
I am very glad you remembered because I wouldn't have remembered. But I
I
guess
love
in
that.
talks of full-time jobs, let's venture to what was your full-time job for 20 years.
For a lot of years. Yes, the lodge. We're going back into a lodge like deep dive, and we're going to talk
Yes.
about getting to the lodge in the spring kind of startup and
Yes.
all that fun stuff.
Kind of like
Um,
our first official weekend up at the lodge, usually before we opened, or like
oh goodness, yeah.
actually wasn't usually the weekend we opened.
No, there was a
Okay.
few times that the weather was so bad we couldn't get there until like the day before we opened. Most of the time we tried to get up there a couple of weeks beforehand. So our fishing season officially started the long weekend in May. We tried to get up there the 1st of May generally, to start opening camp and getting things ready.
Yeah.
For sure, if we could get up there a week before, we tried to. But there was a couple of times that we had weather related issues, that we couldn't get up there until literally the day before, just to kind of
Yeah.
get
I
cabins
feel
open,
like
propane
there was
running
also maybe times that we had to like push guests back and reschedule maybe because like
of the ice.
maybe
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
because we did
So
have some years where even when we were opening we still had ice problems like ice
too
on the
much
lake.
ice. Too
You
much
can't
ice
even
to get
boat up
around.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had to go through three lakes and a river system to get to our lodge, the lake that our lodge was on.
Basically
And a
four
couple,
lakes first of all because the lake
yeah,
our lodge was on the top end of the lake and we entered at the bottom so
we were at the top. So a couple of the lakes that we had to travel across were quite large lakes, and usually the larger lakes are the last ones to have the ice come off. There were several times that we actually had to just like drive instead of doing our regular direct route, we'd actually have to take the shoreline because it had receded by about maybe 10, 15 feet. And we would just kind of have to go with the shoreline. The tricky part with that, and this happened to the previous owners that we bought the lodge from, like way back probably in the 90s, is that as you're driving, like you're boating there, that ice is now just one large floating ice mass. And they had one time where they kind of got pinched in between a couple of lakes and the wind changed and it pushed them in and they had to like come out of the water because the ice came right up to
yeah.
like onto shore because the whole wind direction shifted and they actually had to camp out overnight
Oh,
without tents. Did you
that
even know that story?
I did not know that. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. So they had to stay overnight on one of the lakes on the shore until the next morning when the wind shifted back and they could continue going up. So you
Yeah,
kind of
that is
roll
the
the
hard
dice.
part because there was even a couple years I know where when we would go up like I can remember going up. I think I don't ever remember really going up to open up the lodge because usually that was just be my dad for the most part. He would go initially kind of just open everything up, make sure everything was running and then at some point we'd go up because it was always while we were still in school obviously, but
Hmm.
I remember a couple of years that because of those like big chunks of ice even just like leaving our dock in town, there was a bay before you entered into the big lake, and because of the wind, it had pushed the ice to block off the exit of the bay, and we had to break through the ice to even get going. And then multiple times throughout our trip up, you'd have to like slow down and just you have to rock your boat through the ice
Yeah.
to try and split the ice up.
Yeah. Or you would kind of
Yeah.
ride up onto the ice and then you'd stand on the front of the boat and
And
push it
you'd all
down.
go
And
to the front, and then you'd go to the back, so you'd get up, go to it was like a little seesaw. And as someone, especially when you're little, it's a little bit freaky. It is kind of like
okay.
scary to think like you're driving into a big iceberg, essentially. Like
Okay,
like
Titanic.
but like I feel like if you're like a younger kid, like it is a little bit spooky to be
Yeah.
having to rock your boat as hard as you can through the ice to break it. So
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And that, like, there were lots of times. So the majority, like, I mean, there were more than none. We were pushing through ice to get up to the lodge. And a lot
Yeah.
of the times the ice had honeycombed. So it's like these suspended honeycombs in the water. And can you remember you just kind of putted through it and it just kind of tinkled like wind chimes
Yeah.
as it like hit the side of the boat and like you went around it. And then you could hear the propeller, like, because you're just kind of just trolling along. It almost like was almost like churning it up a little bit
Yeah.
and crunching it up. And it was the coolest little sound because it was like you were surrounded by like thousands of wind chimes. You just kind of and it all
Yeah.
tinkled in different like different notes and tones and stuff like that. It was really cool. And so you
It
would
was
go
kind of
through
like a
kind of
wind chime.
and you would go through patches of that and then it would open up in patches of that. So
I feel like
most
we really
like
lucked out with how little ice we had to deal with over like 15 years, you know?
yeah, we were really fortunate. Yeah, the most of the times it was okay and we could get there, go through a little bit of that honeycombed ice. A couple of times we definitely had to go around and you never just like it was kind of those we would do exploratory trips out, my husband and I. So
Yeah.
we're like, okay, we'll go and see what the ice is doing because you'd get out of the bay of the town that we lived in, and then you had to go around a corner. Well, then you might come into the big lake and it's just completely frozen over and you can't get any farther. So we never like
Yeah.
pre-packed everything up and then just went out. We did a couple of like
Or like
reconnaissance missions.
all three of the lakes like they almost kind of made a curve. So even if you get through if the ice is all blown to like the right side of the lake, once you get through that first lake, the angle shifts so that where the wind is blowing is now blowing a different direction to where you're traveling.
Yeah.
So you might be able to get through the first lake, get to the second lake, and now the ice is in your way type situation.
Yeah. So we usually did like reconnaissance missions first before we just threw like 1,000 pounds of gear and, jerry cans,
Yeah.
gas, and all that kind of stuff. We would kind of just go and check it out first and like, okay, this is our window of opportunity. Let's go. Let's get through. There were lots of times too, we would go out and there was no ice on the lake. It was completely cleared
Oh
off. It
yeah.
was smooth sailing, not a big deal. But yeah, so there was a few times and a lot of the times, yeah, it was your dad and I because it was during school. And until I had a full time job, like your dad and I would go up, and you would stay with
Yeah.
your grandparents and continue on with school.
Yeah.
Um,
And I feel
so
like
a lot of
even
times
on
he and I were going
weekends, like
through.
especially when we were probably really young, I'm sure we still stayed with my grandparents on weekends just for the convenience of like trying to open up a lodge
Yeah,
enough to deal with two little kids like the
yeah,
first. Like cuz I don't
because
remember much the first few times. Like I don't remember much from the first lodge really because I was quite young for the big parts of that. But like I don't really remember going up and opening up the first lodge.
you were
Like,
there though, because when you
well,
kids were in school,
obviously I
like
was a
we pulled.
baby.
I know, but when you weren't in full time school, we pulled
Oh
you
yeah.
out the beginning of May. Like in pre kindergarten and kindergarten, it wasn't until grade one that then you stayed in and finished that last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So you were there, but yeah, you were pretty young when that happened. So it was, kind of really interesting to get there and wait, and of course, at the same time, all of our guests are constantly calling us. Oh, is the ice off yet? Is the ice off yet? Like,
Yeah.
because it was kind of a roulette game as to whether we'd have to push back guests. Like, if there's solid ice and we can't get there, well, then guess what? We're not fishing. Like, we
If we
can't
can't get there,
get
you
there.
can't get there.
Yeah,
Like,
we can't. If we can't get there, there's definitely no fishing boats turned over with motors
yeah,
on them for you to get out there and go fishing.
exactly.
Um, we did have one year that the ice was so packed in, and you guys were quite little. I don't know if you remember this, but we
I
had to
do
fly into the lodge.
I do remember this. I know my brother was quite young, but
He was
at
a
our
baby.
like our dock where we left town, we also like uh until we switched lodges actually. I'm pretty sure the year we moved lodges was the same year we moved into our new house. But either way, it was they were the same timeline anyways, but we lived on the property that our dock was at. So and then but it was like a split property with a cabin on the other half of it, and that was the like float plane service for town.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to go very far, but we just had to walk a couple steps to the other side of the property, and there was our airplane. But I remember having to fly in the one year, because
Okay.
all the lakes were like they were really heavily iced. Even our lake was heavily iced.
It was heavily iced, but it was enough. So my husband flew and did like a reconnaissance in the air mission with the float plane service, and we noticed that our lodge lake in particular was open about half of it, so enough that you could get around on it. So what happened that year was my dad was working for us, and he and my husband and my dad they drove probably 2 hours down the road to get closer to Snow Lake where we live now, and there's an old rail bed that they use for one of the mining companies to travel. And or I think it might be a logging. Anyways, it's an old rail bed that no longer has tracks on it, so you can drive it. So then they had to drive an hour from the other side because that rail area goes right over one of the corners of our lake. And so they threw a boat in the back of the truck and they drove about an hour down this rail bed, like 2.5 hours to get, maybe 2 hours to get to the rail bed, and then an hour in. Then they had to offload this boat, take it down off of the rail bed onto the lake, and then assemble it and get there. So they were already there, and we flew it
I don't remember
because
this. Did you have to fly in twice?
no, we've only flown in once. That was it.
I don't ever remember being at the lodge while Grandpa worked there.
That's because you were really, really little.
Yeah, but I remember flying to the lodge. I remember when I flew, Dad and the float plane, they flew up before us to see if they could land because our bay in town was thawed out. I thought they flew up, and if they came back and they couldn't land, we weren't going. They flew up. Our bay at the lodge was thawed, landed. When he came back empty, the three of us got in with some groceries, flew up.
Yeah, no. So they did the
Oh,
reconnaissance
I
and
don't
checked it
remember
out.
this at
And then
all.
your dad, and your dad might not have not been there, but your dad definitely had to drive down this old rail bed and like, it's all overgrown and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So he got there and then the three of us threw out with the float plane pilot, but only the little bay that we lived in, the rest of the main lake, the
Maybe it
first
was
lake, there
just the
was,
float plane pilot that flew out first then. Because I thought for sure they left before us to make sure they could land before we went.
we might have thrown some stuff in and the float plane pilot went
Oh,
out there with a
my
bit of
whole life
cargo.
just changed.
But regardless, you and I and your brother went out after that. So I remember us getting into the float plane. We just had, we had it full of supplies and stuff
We
like
had
that.
like
We're
bread and stuff.
taxiing.
We just had some groceries.
Yeah, we just had groceries and stuff. We're taxiing out into the main lake, like right where the cutoff of the ice is, so that we can turn around because then we have to turn and drive. We have to try and take off in this bay and then up over town, which he had tried that beforehand, so we knew we could do it. But as we're taxiing out so we can turn around to take off, we got stuck in the ice. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that now.
So we got stuck in the ice while the plane's trying to turn. So then the pilot had to get out with a paddle and he's trying to push all this ice around and turn this plane around. I thought, what am I doing with two young babies in this
Yeah.
plane thinking this is a good idea? Because we could get up over the tree line. Like we didn't
Oh,
have a
yeah.
huge, I was like, why?
Runway.
Anyways, we made
You
it
did
because
it.
we're here making a podcast now.
Yeah.
And we were able to fly in, and there was just enough area open in front of the bay of the lodge that we were able to land. And then we still had to break ice to get to the other camp, I think, or
Yeah, I
maybe,
remember that.
yeah.
I remember us getting in one of our little fishing boats because our other lodge was at the back of the island.
Yeah.
And I remember that was that was one of the times I was really scared when it came to breaking ice because our fishing
Aw.
boats were quite small and we had to rock it. Like that was the time where we rocked it. And I remember sitting in the bottom of that boat, like, because we were rocking it so aggressively, I thought we were going to tip over. I was like, oh my God, because I was so little. Like, how was I
You were
supposed to
with your
understand that?
dad and your brother. I was still at the lodge because I was doing a big sweep clean to get
Oh,
everything
I
open
remember
there, and you and
us
your dad and your brother went over.
rocking this boat, and I was so scared we were going to tip over, but we had to break open ice to get to the other lodge to make sure it was functionable and stuff like that. Yeah, that was crazy.
Ainsley, that's
That was
adorable.
craziness.
That's adorable. I love that. I love that. So yeah, a couple of crazy ways. There was another time too, and I don't know if it was the very first time we went up. I want to say it is. Um, and it might have your dad and I went up in the big freight boat and we had on like probably 25 5-gallon jerry cans of gas because that's how we hauled our gas to and from. Instead of big drums, we just did it in jerry cans.
Yeah.
And so we had the whole back loaded to the hilt with jerry cans of gas. And in the front, we had some supplies as well. And we were like we were maxed out on our weight in the big boat. And the ice had just come off the lake. So when you go up to the lodge that we owned, you had to go through three big lakes, and then you did the Grass River system, which is just
Yep.
hairpin turns. Um, so, anyways, you have to go underneath one of these rail bed trestles, the one
Yep.
that's no longer in operation, but the trestle is still there. It's this giant, like I don't know, 3-story high
It's like a big wooden bridge, essentially.
big wooden bridge. So you have to go under it, and there's only like enough room for one boat to go through it. But there's really good fishing right at this bridge. So some people will kind of come in and they'll like dock their boat and fish out of their boat into the river there to catch some fish. So your dad and I are coming up here fully loaded. So we are just right on step. We've got it right to the max. We're just blazing through it. The river system was so shallow that you either had to go full tilt or you
Yeah.
had to putter along. There was no halfway. And we're going full tilt. And at that point, a beaver had built a bit of a beaver lodge on the one side, I think it's the east side of the river, and had a little bit of like feed sticks sticking out that kind of protruded into your route
The
underneath the
yeah.
trestle bridge. So we're coming up, and these people that we knew were docked in their boat right on the other side of the trestle across from where this beaver lodge was. And they're fishing, and there was three or four of them or whatever. Anyways, your dad and I had to come, and we had to crank the boat tightly around this feed pile of branches,
Yeah.
and then plane back out um, to get through the trestle. And there's enough turns that you don't can't see in advance enough to be able to come off step and just putter through and wait till you have a
Yeah.
spot where you can get back up on step. So we come barreling through, and we had to tilt the boat to the one side and then turn it and keep going. Well, these people are here. And as we did this, when we tilted it, it was a wall of water, like from our wake, like
Well,
because you're spray, the whole wall of water just hit these people and they just started to scream. And I can remember your dad's driving and he's like cranking the boat. And he's like, I'm so because you couldn't go
yeah.
off step. We would have crashed into them or whatever.
Oh, I
So we just
remember we did that one time too. It was farther up the river, but I remember we came around a corner and we were full and we sprayed these people and they yeah.
oh, so these poor people, we've just sprayed them with a wall of water. It's like maybe like 8 or 10 degrees out, but the
Yeah.
water, there's still ice on the lakes. The water is ice cold. And we just doused them with this giant wall of water. And oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So your dad and I get through the trestle and we start to laugh. He's like, oh, Jen, he's like, I feel so bad. And I'm like, I know. He's like, but I had no choice. Like I couldn't,
Oh
if you
yeah,
tried to
you
pull
can't
back on the
stop.
throttle, we would have crashed. We would have lost it. So like we had no choice. And
Yeah.
I'm sure they know that too, because they're boaters as well. But we
Yeah.
couldn't stop laughing and we felt so bad. Well, it was weeks. It was halfway through the summer, I think, before I saw the lady of this husband and wife. And I think their dad was fishing, maybe one of their sons. And so we saw them and I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, we are so sorry. And she just started to laugh. She's like, wow. She said, that was just nuts. I said, all we could hear was you guys screaming and then stop when the wave of water hit you. And we like yelled, we're sorry. And she's like, it was so cold. But the sun was
Yeah.
out and warm. They were able to dry off,
Yeah.
but we had a huge laugh. I'm like, my husband feels so bad. She's like, well, what else are you going to do? Like, that's the risk you run.
Oh, exactly. That river
Oh,
is
I'm glad it wasn't me.
the river is a dangerous place to fish, not in the sense of like getting hit because people are really respectable and they will fish to the edges of the river like they understand that you can't see going through there, but it's dangerous in the sense of you don't know if you're going to get doused or not.
Yeah.
Like you don't know
And the
what
other
wave is
thing,
coming for you.
the other dangerous part about the river is in the middle of summer, when the black flies get so bad, moose will come and just stand in the
Oh yeah.
middle of the river. And you're coming around a corner and all of a sudden, boom, there's this giant moose head standing there
Moose.
because they're into the water up to their back because they're trying to get some reprieve from the
The
black flies.
flies.
And like there's times my husband has said like he's coming around a corner and then he's trying to avoid the moose. He's like, I'm so close. He's like, Jen, I could have just swatted all the flies off that moose's back because there's no time to react. Like you're coming
Yeah.
around these things. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But I never had that. I saw them like in the swamp, like in the marsh
In
periods,
the
but they were
marshy
never
part.
like laying, like sitting right deliberately in the river. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
But yeah, it was this time of year, well, close to it. Like, what are we in? The middle of April?
We're
So in
we're
probably,
almost yeah, probably in like 2 weeks time. Be
yeah, we would
packing
have
up a
been doing
boat
the trek.
and trying. Which, if you were to look, I mean, I know you guys just had a big snowstorm, but that doesn't really affect in terms of the lake too much. But like,
No,
if you were to go outside right now and look at the lake, would you think in 2 weeks time you'd be able to get across the lake that you live on? Yeah,
yeah.
this would be a rough year.
This would be a couple days before the season opened. I heard that like the Farmer's Almanac kind of forecasting that May is supposed to be really, really hot. So, and it literally only takes days for that big ice flow to come off. Like as soon as the wind starts
Yeah.
pushing that ice around, it eats it up, melts it off fast. But we had some tricky times in the spring trying to get to that lodge
Yeah.
so we could open it up. Like lots of ice
Yeah.
and yeah, having to fly because we couldn't get a boat in. It's doing it when we're young with young kids. What were we thinking? Like,
Yeah, what were
why?
you thinking?
I
Like
don't know. Trust me, there's a lot of times that Child Family Services should have just pulled up with a boat and said, "We'll just take these two children. Thank you very much.
oh my
You do you."
goodness. Like
Like,
that's a brave mission to conquer, being people who have never owned a lodge before. Like, yeah, you both grew up in small, like, bush towns, but, like,
mhm,
to not know that industry, to be like, yep, let's go in kind of basically sight
yep,
unseen. Like, I know you managed a
feet
lodge,
face,
but
feet first.
it wasn't like you were buying the lodge you just managed for 4 years. You were like,
No,
no, let's go buy a lodge at a remote boat in only. You can't even drive to it. Like, let's just,
yeah.
and then at the same time, let's have a baby our very first season open, and then
You know what?
like the
Yeah.
following season find out, oh yeah, we're gonna have another baby.
Another
Like
one. Why not? Sure. Why stop here? Yeah, and I mean, I literally like I was 2 days away from having you before I went in from the lodge.
yeah,
Maybe, yeah, a couple of days before. I think I went in
yeah,
on my due date. Like I'm
so
40
2 days.
miles by boat just to get to a town, not the town that has the hospital in
Yeah,
it. A town. Like, what am I thinking? What was I thinking? And then 11 days later, yeah, let's bring Ainsley in. She's fine.
back out
Yeah,
you are.
what can go wrong? 11-day-old baby. Look at you now.
Crazy times, very crazy
Look at
times.
you now.
Look at me now, thriving. Got a big girl job.
That didn't scar you. Yeah, you have a girl job now. Big girl.
No, the lodge
Big
didn't scar
girl.
me at all. I definitely think,
Big
like I know
girl.
I've stated before, I definitely do think that I've missed out on a lot of typical childhood things because of the lodge, like especially in the summer, like when you none of you are in school and you get to hang out with all your friends, and especially having like a summer birthday. But
Hmm.
I would never go back and try and have a typical childhood over the one I did, because I just think that I learned so much and it shaped so much of who I am, and I like the person I am because of those experiences. And like I
That's
can, like I have people I can like directly compare to, because I grew up with all of these friends in the exact same town as me, but we live two very different lifestyles. To live in a town of less than 1,000 people and have such a drastic lifestyle difference is crazy. But like some days I'm like, oh, like it probably would have been fun to do this or that, but like going to a birthday party or having a birthday party isn't going to make or break my future. But I feel like living at the lodge may or may not have like make or break in a sense my future, just as to who I am. So I'll take it.
I love the fact that you have just stated that. That makes my
And I
heart.
feel like it really made our family like we're a very family oriented
Oh my
family.
God, we're so
Like,
tight. That was kind of fun to talk about.
yeah.
Let's go over to this would you rather question. This is a spicy question. It's brought to us by Nicole, and it was would you rather lose your sight or your memories?
See, this one's tricky because if you lose your sight, you're stuck with those
No, just
memories
pick, pick, pick,
of
pick, pick. You
sight.
just pick one. Pick one.
I'd rather lose my sight.
I'd rather lose my sight. No, I'd rather lose my memories. I would
Oh,
rather have my sight. Yeah, we're different
well,
today. Okay,
we are different.
we are. And I feel like that's controversial for me to say I'd rather lose my memories than my sight. So, Ainsley, you go first with why you'd
Well,
rather lose your sight.
especially after we just went down freaking memory lane.
I
Um,
know.
I don't know. I mean, I'm halfway there. I'm just kidding. I really don't want to lose my sight, obviously, but I just think that like you learn to live without your sight. Like you'll still function, and I think I'd want to keep all those memories I had. Whereas if I was to lose my memory, like what you don't remember anything, like that would just be so sad.
I get it. I'm also at the point in my life where I think I would be like I would have a very hard time functioning
Yeah.
without my sight. And my other justification is we're doing this podcast, so we're talking about my memories.
Oh my.
So I can just keep rewatching the things that happened and I don't have to remember them. And I can make new memories, I guess, but I just think at this stage of the game, maybe if I was younger, I'd be like, yeah, no, I don't mind losing my sight. I mind
Uh,
losing my sight at this point. I'm going to go senile at some point, anyways. Half the time, listen, half the
yeah.
time I can't remember stuff, anyways. Half the time we tape this podcast and then I go to watch it and I'm like, oh, right. right, I can't remember what we were going to talk about. And then here we're talking about it. So I'm
And
already partway
to
there.
keep in mind, most times we're only like 2 to 3 days prior
I
to
know.
it coming out. So like you got
I
real
know.
problems over there.
For
Fair enough.
example, last week when we got totally changed subject and talked about the golf versus this episode today, earlier this week when I was at this gentleman's house or this couple's house, this older doctor, doctor and retired nurse, and we were talking about like snow in like summer months and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I literally have seen snow in the air
Yeah.
in May, June, July, August, September in northern Manitoba. I've seen snow flurries in all of those months, which you wouldn't think you would see
All
them.
those summer months.
Yeah. So we were talking about some stuff, and then I literally said to them, oh, you know what we should talk about this week for the lodge life? Is we should talk about like when we first had to go up to the ice or to the lodge through the ice and breaking like through the ice to get to the lodge and, all that kind of fun stuff. And then when we came to tape this podcast and I looked at like what
Our
our topic
document.
was, it was the exact same thing that I had just said.
Yeah. Because we had discussed doing
Yeah.
this.
My memory's already going. I'm choosing to lose that versus sight. So we're
Fair
going to
enough.
throw it out to our audience. Which would you rather? Would you rather lose your sight or your memories? Great question, Nicole, because that's a tough one. That's a
Yes.
lose
It is
lose.
a really,
That's a
yeah.
real tough one. So please let us know. Throw it in the comments if you're on the Patreon. Add it. Put your answer there too
There's
if
a
you
poll out
want.
there, yeah.
There'll be a poll out. Love that. Ainsley, if people would like to leave us a would you rather question, how do they do so?
You can put it down in the comments below, or you can go over to Instagram and send us a DM. Woot, woot,
Love it.
woot.
I
Woot, woot,
love
woot.
it. Great question. Okay. Now we're going to talk about, we haven't done this in a while. We're going to do two truths and a lie, Ainsley.
Yeah, we've been pushing this one back a while because someone just keeps having all these random things she wants to talk about.
I do.
And I was so excited because I actually have a good setup of two truths and a lie this time, unlike the last one. And then we've been pushing it back for weeks.
Wow, wow,
So,
wow. That sounds like a lot of whining.
okay, my two truths and a lie. I learned to juggle in one day. I learned the Rubik's Cube in one day. I learned to unicycle in one day.
So I'm going to say that the lie is you learned to juggle in one day.
The lie is I learned to unicycle in one day.
You learned to juggle in
I
one day?
I did it at the lodge.
Oh, for
What
God's
else was I
sakes.
supposed to do? I remember I ran around all day and I was just like chasing the balls. And then finally by the end of the day I could kind of stay within like a 10-foot radius and get quite a few reps in.
Oh my
So
God.
the
Of
Rubik
course, one day.
the unicycle was never it I was never successfully able to do that without
Oh,
crutches
yeah.
beside me.
That's right. You had to have crutches. Yes. Thank
Yeah.
goodness, because you probably would have broken something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm 0 for 2. Boo.
Boo.
Boo. All
Boo.
right. Here's my two truths and a lie, Ainsley.
Yes.
I have high fived Oprah. I have sat beside Dr. Phil in a restaurant. I met Wayne Gretzky at a sports banquet. Which one is the lie?
I think, see, here's the thing. I know all your lies because your truths are so unique.
Those are all unique. Are you kidding me?
I know, I know. Okay, I think the lie is that you met Wayne Gretzky at a sports banquet.
Alas, you are right. I actually met Wayne Gretzky's dad at a sports banquet. He was the main speaker
Oh,
at the hockey banquet that when my brother was in minor hockey, and my dad actually worked with Wayne Gretzky's dad with the telephone company that they were both affiliated with. So
that's
they
cool.
were in different cities, but they kind of worked the
Yeah.
odd time together. So it was my dad that approached. Oh God, what was his name? Wayne Gretzky's dad's name. This is driving nuts, and I can't remember it. But anyways, had approached him to see if he would come and speak at our like local minor hockey banquet, and he did. And oh my God, we were so excited as little because this would have been
Walter.
in the 80s. Walter, thank you. And that was right in the height,
Oh, right in his
but like the
prime.
height
Yeah.
of Wayne Gretzky's career with the Edmonton Oilers, and he was such a big phenomenon. So he came and spoke. But yes, I have actually high fived Oprah. I went to a taping of her show, and I was right at the
Walkout.
seated right where she walks out. And when she walked out, I put my hand up and she high fived it. I never wanted to wash my hand again. And then another time we were at a restaurant in Chicago with some clients, and Dr. Phil came in with some other people and sat
That's
right beside
crazy.
us. Yeah. And I can remember like everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's Dr. Phil. And I was like, yes, Dr. Phil. And inside I was freaking out. I was like, holy shit, I can call my mom.
That's really cool.
So it was really cool.
That is really cool.
It was. And that was right at the height. That would have been in the mm, 1990s, the end of the night, right at the height of like Dr. Phil being on Oprah, like that whole
Yeah.
hype of that. And Oprah was definitely, quite high
Oh
and
yeah.
mighty then too. I couldn't believe I got to high five.
Dang. That's so cool.
It was cool. It was really cool. But
That is really
yeah,
cool.
listening, yeah, it was cool. It was really well. Look at that, you're 2 for 2, and I'm 0 for 2.
Oh yeah.
That sucks for
Oh,
me.
you should have known that I never learned how to actually ride a unicycle.
I figured you probably had that figured in two shakes, but I guess I was
No,
wrong.
no, 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 no. Now I juggle.
Yes.
Everyone thinks it's cool. I'm like, oh yeah, have the time of my life.
Here's
I
the
go to
thing that I
football
love to
practice. I
watch.
juggle all the tennis balls.
I love to watch you do the Rubik's Cube, and I loved it when your brother was younger because he would sit there and he would turn his back to you and he would try and mix, and he thought the longer it took to mix it up, the more you wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
get it. And he thought he was outsmarting you every time, and he would sit there and trick it, and then be like, okay, now try it, Ainsley. And you're like,
my
okay, and be done. So
my
funny. Oh,
girlfriend
give
does
it
the
back to
same
me.
thing.
And he tried even
My
harder for even longer, thinking, oh, I've totally foiled her this time. And he give back to you, you're like,
oh my goodness.
done.
My girlfriend
Yeah.
does the same thing.
I love that. I think that's hilarious. All right. Well, let's
Oh,
wrap it up there.
yes.
I'm going to go out and enjoy the Sunday because we're starting to now get back into nicer temperatures. Thank you so much for tuning in to Second Saturday.
Yes, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell because we're here every Sunday with an episode, every Friday with a vlog, and we're on Patreon, so go check that out.
Oh, yes. And we have a couple new Patreon members too, do
Oh,
we not?
yes. Shout out to my awesome, awesome grandmas. Both of them. Both GMAs in the house.
In the house. So we got a few now. That's pretty awesome. And
Yes.
yes, as Ainsley said, please like this if you've gotten any value out of it or you've found it slightly entertaining. That really helps us in supporting this channel.
Yeah.
And if you can leave your answer to the Would You Rather, that really, really helps our channel too.
And
We've
we
been doing
love
this
to
now
see
for
the answers.
we would love to see the answers, but it does really, really help us out with our channel and the things that we're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So if you've, saw any type of humor or gotten some interesting insights into
Yeah.
us, please make sure you like it. It's really important to us, and we would love to see your likes and your comments.
Yes.
Anyways, all right, we'll leave it at that. Everybody have a great Sunday, and we will see you next Sunday.
Bye.
Bye.